It's Friday! Happy Friday! It's been such a wonderful, busy week. I was able to attend a conference and sit and listen and be poured into with information to keep me going as an educator. And I think that's always wonderful, especially in person. We've been on Zoom for so long for conferences, so to be interacting with people in real life was a really good feeling. And one of the things that the keynote from yesterday said was that public education is a miracle and that we are the one thing holding this country together. And I started thinking about that and how public education, I know that many of us went through a public system and how it was the one thing created as a country. And he highlighted how we are the second largest employment group in many of our communities. And I thought, wow, that's something to be said. And then he started speaking about the importance of highlighting the good that we do in public education. And I know that I try to do that, and many schools do that with their Facebook pages and their Instagrams and highlighting all kinds of things in their newsletters and parent newsletters and principal letters. And so it got me wondering a lot about perspective that people put in place. And so as I was going down the thought process, I thought it makes me appreciate how I've come up into the school system. I was I was educated, born, raised, and educated in the public school education system, went to a public college, an entity, and now I'm working in the public school education as a teacher, administrator, and how in each of those roles, it gave me different perspectives. And we have to do that a lot when it comes to other people, right? When I was a student, I had a student perspective of how things were operating, and I didn't realize what it took to be behind the scenes. And then when I became a teacher, I had a different appreciation and understanding for all the planning that my teacher had to do. And then when I became an administrator, I had a different appreciation of the view above that had to be taken, and no longer did I feel like, oh, well, the principal XYZ doesn't understand, because I was a principal and I could understand now that I'm balancing and dealing with a lot more and many different types of people that are on my plate than just the 25 people in my class. And so when we deal with one another as humans, we have to look at the different perspectives that are out there and not just our own little bubble. Take a moment and just try to be empathetic and put yourself in those people's shoes and to try to wonder what they're doing. And so all of those thoughts got me then to the remakes that are happening and the reboots that are coming out on TV. And at first I was a little offended, like, I don't need you to make the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air a new series of that. That show was fine the way it was, leave it alone and get your own ideas, right? And then I started seeing different reboots coming out, and one of them caught my eye. And it was the Wonder Years. I have grown up watching the Wonder Years. I watched it a lot and always watched and wondered if he was going to get a hold of the girl and have her fall in love with him. And then I saw that there was a reboot of the Wonder Years on Netflix. And I thought, oh, we don't need another reboot. But what caught my eye was, instead of it being an all-white family, it was an all-black family. So I'm like, okay, let me give it a chance, because I root for anything and everything black. And I started watching it, and it all tied back to everything that I just said of perspective, because it wasn't as much as it was a reboot, right? When I, was watching all the reboots before, it was like, well, they did a really good job with it. This was from the perspective of a family in the same time period, but what they were going through. And as someone who watched the white family go through that during that same time period, it was very appreciative for me to see it from the black perspective. And so I encourage you, as you start to see these reboots or you start to see things done differently in schools, that you take a pause, and instead of having that amnesia, the nostalgia and the amnesia of what you went through, that you take a minute, look at the reboot, look at how they're doing the new math, try to understand how they're doing things the way they're doing it, and look at it on the flip side, because everyone's experiences are different as they're going through. So with all this rambling, I say that, the Wonder Years looks different in everyone's viewpoint. School looks different in everyone's viewpoint. What you went through during school might be different on the same flip side from somebody else in the same classroom at that same time period. And we have to be cautious and remember that as we work together to continue to build a better community. Those are just some Friday facts. Sorry they're a little scattered, and have a wonderful weekend.